Hi, I'm Jake Kloberdanz, CEO and founder at ONEHOPE, and I'm here to explain how we give. Our intentions were really good when we first started and threw out the 50% of profits or half of our profits and decided that that's what we were going to commit to. We wanted it to be a big impact, and we also wanted to be something that was quite simple for people to understand. But in reality, as we started to dig into it and as the company evolved, we realized that 50% of profits is actually quite complex when you think about it across over 100 different products and 35 plus different causes. And so thinking about just an amount of dollars donated is a little bit of a flawed way of thinking. We've been kind of taught to think that way of a society, as what percentage or what dollars, rather than being concerned about, well, what are those dollars actually going to work on? What are they actually going to do? How are they going to help people and help the world? Over time, we've also come to realize that while the US consumer is quite smart, they're also quite skeptical. And so when you talk in the form of percentages that are ambiguous, or even start to apply X amount of dollars to this bottle will be donated, the skeptical consumer will say, well, I'm either paying X dollars too much for that, or X dollars really isn't that much of a donation, so why would I buy it? The difference being that when you give them the idea that X amount of meals are being provided, they truly feel connected to it, and their mind doesn't go to the most negative sides of the spectrum, but actually embraces that their purchase is making an impact, and furthermore, a quantifiable impact that they understand. So I know what you're thinking. If I get caught in the elevator with Jake at the hotel at Crush, what is that elevator pitch now that I don't have half of profits or 50% of profits? Well, it's actually quite simple. You can say every bottle makes an impact, or every product makes an impact. And then after that, you can go into some of the more specifics. For instance, I like to choose ones that have a very quantifiable impact tied to a single bottle or a case, like every bottle of our sparkling funds 2 meals for children fighting hunger, or every 2 bottles of Sauvignon Blanc helps plant a tree with reforestation projects around the world. We figure out how much we're going to donate by working really closely with our cause partners and figuring out how much it costs to create 1 unit of impact. And by a unit of impact, I mean a meal provided or a forever home that's funded. And once we understand that, we really try to apply it to a single case or a solid number of bottles, so that by the end we can have something as easily understood as every bottle helps to fund 2 meals, or every case helps to fund a forever home. To choose our charitable partners, we look at 14 standards that are really our guidelines for what nonprofits we will work with. Not all of the standards are mandatory, but we do try to measure nonprofits that submit and come through based on them. And we have some that are mandatory, and then others that are nice to have. Mandatory ones include, like, are they a 501c3? Can you find them on Charity Navigator or GuideStar, and do they hit a certain rating? And other ones that we look at and that are standards of ours are how many cents on the dollar makes it to the end programs, as well as do they have a dollar to impact ratio? And if they don't, we work with them to help them have one. We try to switch nonprofit partners as little as possible, because the nonprofits that we choose in the first place, we're really committed to, we really believe in them, they fit our standards and our guidelines that we look for. And we know that building long-term relationships is really an important part of having a sustainable impact for a nonprofit. As often as possible, we try to approach it from a long-term perspective. The reasons why sometimes we do need to change them over is because their mission changes or their management team changes and is no longer aligned with kind of our culture, or they're acquired by another group or merge with another group, and again their mission or their cause changes a bit. And so we'll seek out other ones that do not only fit our standards and our guidelines, but also are aligned with our mission. So we just spent all this time talking about why a measurable impact is a better way to think about things versus a dollar amount or a percentage. And you might be asking yourself, so why do we donate 10% to the host's cause of choice instead of quantifying the impact? And the answer really is that we wanted to make the 10% donation as flexible as possible, where with the built-in impact and the quantifiable donation, we want to make it as transparent as possible. And so when you think about a 10% donation to hundreds of causes a week and hosts that are hosting events all over the nation, there's so many different local causes that it would be impossible for us to go through each of the standards that make up our guidelines for how we choose causes and actually be able to do that for every single event that's hosted. And so we've gotten comfortable with that 10% donation still being the next best thing, something that you can quantify at the end of the night based on how many sales there are, and be able to tell a dollar amount that was donated to that cause of choice. The built-in donation is great if you can do it, but it's just simply not possible to do across thousands of cause entrepreneurs and tens of thousands of events annually. A lot of people try to understand, where does the donation come from? Is it built into your cost of goods sold? Is it part of the marketing budget? Is it some other expense line? And the answer is it's its own model element for us. It's part of the business model, but it's not technically part of the cost of goods sold, even though we do build it into every unit. And it's not technically a marketing expense, it's a donation. It does certainly help us on the marketing side. It does certainly help us to attract the best teammates who want to stay with us. It helps us build our community and get people inspired. But it really is its own part of our business that we celebrate and that we budget for separately from the cost of goods or the overhead or the marketing expenses and all of the traditional things that you think of in a business model. We've chosen not to put our cause partners logos on the actual bottle because from time to time we do actually have to change up who those cause partners are. And we also are only bottling some wines once a year. And so we have to be mindful of that as well. And then lastly, there are actually regulatory challenges with some of the nonprofits and them having their logo on a bottle of wine or some of our other food products. I hope this was fun and educational, and it helps you to better communicate with your friends, family, and customers about how we give and how we make an impact every day.